Have you ever known someone who keeps everything inside? They smile when they're hurting. They say they're fine when they're falling apart. They never complain, never vent, never let anyone see what's really going on. And then one day they explode. Or worse, they just shut down completely. People think they're strong, stable, in control. But here's the truth. People who bottle up their feelings aren't strong. They're scared. And every emotion they swallow is slowly poisoning them from the inside. They learned early that showing emotions was dangerous. For many people, emotional suppression started in childhood. Maybe they cried and got yelled at. Maybe they expressed anger and were punished. Maybe they showed vulnerability and it was used against them. So they learned to shut it down, to keep it in, to never let anyone see them break. And now, as adults, they carry that same programming. Expressing feelings feels unsafe. It feels like handing someone a weapon. So they keep everything buried, even when it's killing them. They don't trust anyone enough to be vulnerable. Some people bottle up their feelings because they've been hurt too many times. They opened up to someone who mocked them, betrayed them, or turned their pain into gossip. So they stopped sharing. They stopped trusting. Now, no matter how close someone gets, there's always a wall, because vulnerability requires trust. And trust requires proof that someone won't hurt you when you're at your weakest. And they haven't found that proof. So they carry their pain alone, convinced it's safer that way. They think their feelings are a burden to others. People who bottle things up often believe their emotions are too much, that if they share what they're really going through, they'll overwhelm people, drive them away, be seen as dramatic or needy. So they stay silent. They minimize their pain. They pretend everything's fine because they'd rather suffer alone than risk being seen as a burden. And every time they swallow their feelings, they reinforce the belief that their pain doesn't matter, that they don't matter. They've convinced themselves that feeling nothing is easier than feeling everything. Emotions are messy. They're unpredictable. They make you vulnerable and out of control, so some people just turn them off. They numb themselves, they disconnect. Because if you don't feel the pain, it can't hurt you, right? But here's the thing. You can't selectively numb emotions. When you shut down sadness, you also shut down joy. When you suppress anger, you also suppress passion. They think they're protecting themselves, but they're just becoming hollow. And one day they wake up and realize they don't feel anything at all. They use busyness and distraction to avoid dealing with it. Some people don't bottle up their feelings through silence. They do it through constant motion. Work, scrolling, exercising, cleaning, anything to avoid sitting still with their thoughts. Because if they stop moving, they'll have to feel. And feeling means confronting all the things they've been avoiding, the grief, the resentment, the loneliness. So they stay busy. They fill every moment with noise. And they convince themselves that as long as they're productive, they're fine. But they're not fine. They're just running. They're terrified of losing control. For some people, expressing emotions feels like opening a door they'll never be able to close. They're afraid that if they start crying, they won't stop. If they let the anger out, they'll destroy everything. If they admit how much they're hurting, they'll completely fall apart. So they hold it in. They stay composed. They maintain control. But the pressure keeps building. And eventually something breaks. Either they explode in ways they can't take back, or they implode into depression, anxiety, or complete emotional shutdown. They don't even know what they're feeling anymore. When you bottle things up long enough, you lose the ability to identify your own emotions. Sadness, anger, fear, it all blends into a vague discomfort they can't name. They've suppressed their feelings for so long that they've become strangers to themselves. Someone asks them what's wrong and they genuinely don't know. Because they've trained themselves not to look, not to feel, not to acknowledge anything below the surface. And now they're numb, disconnected, and convinced this is just how life is. Here's what people who bottle up their feelings need to understand. Your emotions don't disappear when you ignore them. They just find other ways out. Through your body as tension, headaches, illness. Through your behavior as irritability, withdrawal, self-destruction. Through sudden breakdowns that seem to come out of nowhere. You think you're in control, but you're not. You're a pressure cooker. And one day, you're going to burst. And the damage will be worse than if you just let yourself feel in the first place. You don't have to carry everything alone. You don't have to be strong all the time. You're allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to admit that you're not okay. Because keeping it all inside isn't protecting you. It's slowly destroying you. And the people who truly care about you would rather see you struggle and support you than watch you pretend you're fine while you're dying inside. If you want to understand why people hide their pain and how to finally let it out, subscribe now. Because on this channel, we're teaching people that breaking down isn't weakness. It's the first step to healing.